FM 94, The Dark. It is that time again. It's time to get to know a band we play here on The Dark. And on the phone tonight, I'm talking with Ben Gleason. He is the lead singer of the band Source. In fact, Source right now is part of this week's Rock in the Dark New Music Poll. So this is a good plug for this band to definitely get some votes out there. And first of all, Ben, thanks so much for joining me here on The Dark for the first time. How the hell are you doing?
I'm great, man. Thanks so much for having me. It's exciting to be on the radio.
Hey, you know what's cool right now is you guys currently are out on tour with Flaw and also Righteous Vendetta, and it's always cool for musicians to go out on tour. And you were telling me off air, this is the fourth tour that you've been on since last year, almost over 100 shows played. Are you getting tired yet, Ben?
Oh, this life is basically just be tired and then get on stage and then get a giant rush of energy from being on stage and then get off stage and be really tired again. So I'm getting used to being tired, I would say, and I'm getting better at resting as well, taking advantage of the downtime that I have to make sure I fall asleep in my bunk and all that stuff. But, yeah, it's an exhausting lifestyle. But, you know, again, the amount of energy that I get and the amount of fun that I have on stage every night makes all of that worth it for sure.
You know, the one thing I guess I never touch on bands a lot with, and I guess I did some of my interviews back in the day, but, you know, it's a lot of work to be on the road, and you have to make sure you're at the top of your game. What are some of the things that you do to make yourself ready each and every time you're on stage?
Well, the biggest thing is taking care of my health. All of us eat pretty clean food. We have dietary restrictions, which makes touring difficult, but since we go to Whole Foods and get organic stuff, and I take a lot of supplements to make sure I don't get sick, because a lot of these people on the road don't really take care of themselves.
Right.
They're eating Wendy's, and then you catch something, girl, and you're like, darn, man, I'm sick now and I can't sing. So I'm glad that I have figured out good supplements to take care of my immune system and also getting good rest as much as I can. The other thing we do a lot is we go work out, and we get to shower at the gym, which is really cool. So that's definitely been helping out a lot, staying healthy and staying at the top of my game for sure.
Very cool, very cool. Hey, let's get to know about the band Source a little bit more, Ben. How did this band all come about? Give us the history of the band.
So I used to play in a progressive rock band that was pretty heavily influenced by people like Frank Zappa, Mahavishnu Orchestra, and stuff like that. And I played piano. And then I went and saw Tool at Bonnaroo in 2007, and they just kind of blew my mind. I'd never heard anything like that. I'd heard Schism on the radio before, but I'd never heard any of their songs, and I didn't quite get Schism in and of itself. But once I saw them live, I was like, oh man, this band they make me feel something like so deep that I've never experienced with music before. And the power of like the tone, you know, like how heavy everything is and how heavy the drums are and how deep the emotion is put together is what really inspired me to start trying to put together this band. So that band I was in broke up, and I spent like 4 years trying to find the right members for this band. And I live in Colorado, and we all live in Colorado, but at the time I'm trying to find people in Colorado who want to play heavy music. And it's kind of hard because most people want to play, hippie jam band, bluegrass stuff. And so finally, one day I own a flotation tank center out in Boulder, Colorado. So I was at my float center, and Dan walks in to come float, and we start talking about music. I'm like, yeah, I really need a bass player. He's like, oh, I'll play bass. And he actually hadn't played bass in a couple of years, and he's completely self-taught as well. So he was like, oh, yeah, I'll just pick up the bass again. So he picked up the bass again and started playing just insane stuff. And I was playing piano at the time, and I wanted to learn guitar, but I never really had done it. And finally one day I just picked up the guitar and started playing, and it started making more sense to me than it had before. And I started writing all these songs, which became the first album, Return to Nothing. And I'd say most of the songs on that album I wrote within the first 6 months of playing guitar. And so after that, me and Dan had a couple songs, and we were looking for a drummer, and auditioned a bunch of people that weren't good. And then I met George at my jiu-jitsu gym. He'd actually been training there for a long time, but we had never spoken or anything like that. And one day my friend came to the gym wearing an Opeth t-shirt, and he's like, oh, I opened for Opeth with my band. I play drums. And my roommate's like, dude, this guy plays drums and he opened for Opeth. I'm like, really? Opeth's like my favorite band ever. So we tried him out, and we sat down and started playing Forgiveness, just trying to show him Forgiveness. And the first thing that he played was the opening comm line for Forgiveness. I'm like, yep, this is the guy. He's definitely the guy. So we spent a long time trying to find a fourth member and get a lead guitar player in there. But everyone we auditioned just didn't have the right style. And then eventually we found somebody who was really good and graduated from Berkeley and did have the right style. And he sounded great. And I was like, you know what? This totally ruins what we've got going on. The three-piece is what makes Source so unique. And I think, adding a fourth member really covers up what Dan's doing. And I think it's doing a disservice to the music because Dan's such a talented player. So we decided to move on as a three-piece, and as we started touring and all this stuff, we're like, yeah, three-piece is definitely the way to go. We make more money. We have less people in the van. It's just so we don't really even use tracks while we play. So that's kind of how the band came about.
Wow, that's a lot. Very cool, very cool. We're talking to Ben Gleason. Of course, he's the lead singer and also guitarist to the band Source. When you're talking about everything there, you're talking about flotation tanks. For me in Minnesota here, what the hell is that?
Okay, so it's this big saltwater bathtub that's enclosed.
Okay.
And it's designed to minimize sensory input to your brain. So there's 10 inches of water with 900 pounds of Epsom salt dissolved into the water. It's pharmaceutical-grade Epsom salt. You float like a cork on top of the water. Anybody, no matter what their body type, can float like a cork. It's amazing, man. Everything's the same temperature as your skin. It's dark. It's silent. Can't smell anything. Can't taste anything. Can't hear anything. So it's really just you with yourself, your body, your sensations, your thoughts, and nothing else. And for me, it's one of the biggest artistic inspirations that I have. I would say it's actually probably the biggest because every song on the album that we just released was either written about an experience I had in the float tank or was written after I got out of the float tank and picked up my guitar and just had like all of this creativity flow through me. So
wow.
That's part of the reason why it's called Return to Nothing, because the tank itself is designed to be a nothingness environment. And especially with the song Return to Nothing is about an experience I had where I felt like I literally became nothing in the tank. Like I was like just barely aware of the fact that I was aware, and I was still like aware of this nothingness void space, and it was a very unique experience, and I wrote a whole song about it. So that's why the album's called what it is. It's a huge inspiration.
Wow,
Minneapolis.
That is crazy. I've never heard of that before. So it must be more of a West Coast in the area, or where does it all come from? I guess originate from.
It's been around for over 50 years.
Okay.
The guy John C. Lilly, Dr. John C. Lilly, is who created the first float tanks, and he's really the pioneer of our industry when it comes to the technical side of creating a float tank and all that stuff.
Wow.
But there's places to float in Minneapolis. There's a really great spot called the Wellness Center over by Lake Nokomis.
Okay.
I actually grew up in Minneapolis, so that's why I know that. But yeah, I highly recommend checking it out because they have a really good tank over at the Wellness Center, and it's a really good facility. It books out like 2 weeks in advance because people really get a lot out of this stuff and use it regularly.
So you're telling me I should probably get out a little bit here and explore some of this stuff, huh?
Yeah, it's one of those things. I heard about it from Joe Rogan, and the way that he talked about it, I was like, man, I really got to try this. And it ended up inspiring me to lose 100 pounds over the next year. I quit smoking cigarettes.
Holy buckets.
Really healthy food. I totally changed the way I thought about everything. And it's not that the float tank itself gave me that. It just gave me the opportunity to realize I had the power to change things in my life.
Right.
And so because of that, I was just so inspired, and I started changing so many things that I saw were making me unhappy. And I really credit the float tank for giving me that awakening moment for sure.
Wow. Well, one thing it sounds like you like doing is making music, and I guess what kind of inspired you to become an artist in that? What as your background growing up in that? What were some of the influences, I guess, when it came to music for you?
I grew up listening to the music my dad listened to. My mom didn't usually put on music so much. She always enjoyed it, but my dad's the one who really loves music. He used to sing to me and play guitar, and I always loved that. And he used to listen to the Beatles a lot when I was a kid, and the Beatles just, I don't know, there's something about all of their music that really still speaks to me to this day. And so that kind of inspired me to want to explore music. And I had started playing the pots and pans with wooden spoons when I was like 3. So it was just something that I think I was really born to do. It has always come naturally to me. And it feels like the truest way for me to express myself. And it feels like kind of my really aligned career path for sure, as far as now that I'm older. And so I had taken guitar lessons when I was younger and totally forgot all that stuff. And I took bass lessons, and then I started playing piano when I was in high school. And I played piano pretty seriously, kind of on and off for 12 years. And then I've been playing guitar for 3 years now. So it's just I went to music school at the University of Denver and dropped out because I really hated music school. But
that's okay.
Well, and it's one of those things. I was like, I think I'm spending a lot of time working on something that isn't going to really help me get to where I'm going.
Right.
I think that music school is basically just really expensive lessons.
Yep.
So I stopped going, and I started taking lessons with my piano teacher for a while, and that's, again, needing to move on to guitar was really the biggest thing, because once I moved on to guitar, that's when I started writing all the music that's really it's a really deep expression of myself, and I think it really inspires us.
Now, Ben, you had mentioned, too, briefly there, you were talking about actually you had been in Minnesota and that. So you actually lived here in Minnesota for a while?
What?
Oh, are you there?
Yeah.
Hey, you there, Ben?
Yeah, I'm here. You got me?
Yeah, I still got you. We're good. That's the beauty of technology. You have those things that happen Mom Bell just isn't what it used to be anymore back in the day.
Oh, man. Well, and I was talking with a producer, and he was saying that 12 years ago he got a flash drive that was 250 megabytes, and he paid $100 for it.
Exactly. Hey, what I was going to lead into in the next question here, you said you were actually from or had been in Minnesota or lived in Minnesota for a short time. Give us the history on that a little bit. Is that when did you live here?
I grew up in Edina, Minnesota. I graduated from Edina High School and moved out to come to the University of Denver when I was 18. I spent my whole first 18 years in Minnesota, basically.
When I just saw the name Gleason, there's a Gleason Avenue in Edina, isn't there?
I'm not named after.
Are you really?
No, it's not named after. But yeah, we did take Gleason Avenue to high school every day. That's for sure.
Ah, very cool, very cool. So we have a Minnesota guy that's rocking out here. So what's it like, I guess, being a Minnesota guy and then transplanting out to Colorado and eventually taking up the progressive rock scene?
Well, I think Minnesota has a very deep history of music. Bob Dylan and Prince to be great examples of that. And so I think just being raised in the same area that's created so many good musicians has definitely helped me too. But moving out to Colorado gave me a freedom that I didn't really have in Minnesota. There's just more going on. People there are thinking a little bit more critically on a larger scale. There's people thinking critically everywhere, but I'd say people that I know in Minnesota spend a lot of time just going to the bars and having fun, and people in Colorado are a lot more physically active, and they do a lot more stuff outside. And so I think it's just a little bit different pace out there,
right.
And I think it's inspired me musically a ton. Ever since I moved to Colorado, I started writing a ton of music.
So when you were a kid, did you get a chance to go to shows in Minnesota here that bands came to play, or didn't you get an opportunity to ever do that?
Oh yeah, no, I went to tons of shows. My first 2 shows, embarrassingly, at Target Center.
Target Center?
Target Center. And then I saw Aerosmith at the Target Center. And then I got super into jam band music, and I started listening to the Big Woo. You know that band? They're a Minnesota band.
Yep.
And I saw them at the Quest when the Quest was still around.
Yep.
And I was 14, and my dad took me, and they're like, oh, you can't take him in. You got to put X's on his hands, blah, blah, make sure he's not drinking alcohol. And I didn't care. I just wanted to go listen to the music. So, yeah, I've seen a lot of good shows. Been to First Ave a couple times. When I was back home on 2 tours ago, I got to see Opeth and The Sword at First Ave, which I was super excited about because I wasn't sure I was going to see them on that tour, but that was amazing. Minnesota's got a great music scene, man. It's got some really good venues too.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? It does. It's one of those. It's kind of like a hidden gem up here a little bit, isn't it?
Oh man, yeah, most definitely. And the metal scene there is I mean Denver's metal scene to shame for sure. Denver's got a decent metal scene, but Minnesota, people come out and they rage hard. It's so much fun to play there.
We're talking with Ben Gleason. He's with the band Source. Let's get back to the band a little bit. The name Source, how did you come up with that?
So I had been, well, I guess listening to this podcast, Tina Massaro, the guy who it's the podcast that we sample in the track The Word Source on our album. And there's this piece in the podcast where he's talking about the word source and how the word source can be a way to realize sort of the infinite potential of what consciousness is able to experience. And the idea is basically that everything, myself, the bus that I'm standing in, the air that I breathe, all this stuff comes from the same source. And it's not something that you can ever see or touch or taste or smell, because all of those things are just one step away from it, because all those things still come from the same source. And so knowing that has kind of helped me to understand that everything feels eternal and everything is equally important for sure. And I think it's one of those things that just exploring that kind of existential understanding has been really musically inspiring for me. And I think music should answer the big questions. You know what I'm saying? It shouldn't be, I love love songs, and love's a huge important part of life. But I love music, like Tool songs, where they make you question reality and what's really real and what life is really all about.
Right.
And I think for me, my whole exploration into understanding what life is about, like, it all boils down to the word source. And I just thought that it would be such a good name to have for a band. It's been hard as far as being a small band.
Yeah,
the Google search engines and the Facebook pages and all this stuff, it's a pain. But I think once we get bigger, the word itself to me just encompasses everything that I'm all about, that my music's all about. And so I don't want to change it ever. It just means the world to me.
Very cool, very cool. Hey Ben, your latest song is called "The Serpent," and give us the history of this song and kind of the meaning of it. This is the song we're currently spinning here on The Dark, which people can vote for too this week for the Rock of the Dark New Music Poll, and of course for all your listeners that are listening now, and maybe even on the YouTube, the Facebooks, all that, when they do listen to this, they have a chance to vote for this song, and if they can get this song to be the top song of the week, it gets put in our full rotation for a good couple of months. That's always a great thing for a band. Talk about this song, and what is the meaning behind it?
Well, it's kind of a metaphor for the psychedelic experience, to be honest. And it's one of those things that is sort of taboo, and I think that part of the reason it's taboo is because open up this new way of seeing it. And so this song is about basically having my eyes open to a new way of seeing things and having a difficult time of absorbing it and feeling like, am I really allowed to see life in this new way that feels so much better than how I was programmed to believe it should be? And I'm basically having this conversation with this higher intelligence that's basically telling me, like, hey, you deserve to feel good. You deserve to feel happy. You deserve to feel like you belong on the earth and that you're special. And so that voice is basically and the serpent is this force that comes and breaks down all these barriers, preventing you from allowing yourself to be the fullest version of yourself. And yeah, that's basically what the song is about. It's just like giving yourself over to like a more benign, more conscious version of yourself, not necessarily outside of yourself. Because I think we all have this dialogue with ourselves of like, should I be doing this or should I not be doing this? What's the best version of myself? I know I spend most of my day trying to be the best version of myself, and I think a lot about the way I act. And I think, like, the song is about just totally surrendering to that higher self, and letting it show you all ways that you're preventing yourself from really being the fullest version of yourself.
Very cool, very cool. There you have it, Central Minnesota. That's what the meaning of the song is. So when you're voting for it, you know exactly what that meaning is. Hey, I know we got to get going here, Ben, but I want to find out more information about the band Source. How do people find out more information about your band?
The best way to do it is to go to listentosource.com. If you go to listentosource.com page, you can buy our album on iTunes, you can watch our new music video on YouTube, you can find us on Spotify, Twitter, all the good stuff. So if you listen to source.com, follow us on Facebook, you'll get updates on shows, new tracks getting released, fun pictures, all that kind of stuff. You know, Facebook's the best. So
very cool, very cool. And
listen to source.com.
And hopefully we have some shows up here in Minnesota sometime soon. I'm assuming you're working on that.
Yeah, you know, we played a lot there last year, and I would really like to come back again. I was trying to get something booked on this tour on one of the off days, but we couldn't get anything to happen. So hopefully we'll be back there soon, because playing music in Minnesota is the best.
Absolutely, especially when you're from here even too, right?
Oh, yeah, I get to stay at my parents' house, and they cook a bunch of food for all of us.
That's the best part, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, you even get clean laundry too, don't you?
Oh, gosh, yeah. That's for everybody's benefit. Fans are like, man, you really need to do some laundry, bro.
Nice, nice. Hey, Ben, we're going to play your latest song, The Serpent, right now. Thanks so much for joining me, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thanks for having me. Enjoy the track, guys, and vote for us.
Absolutely. Once again, that is Ben Gleason from the band Source. The latest song is called The Serpent. You're hearing it right now. It's on The Dark. It's on FM 94.